So today I am 54. It is my birthday. And I don't know, I think too much on a good day. But do people ever think, when they hit these milestones, that this is maybe I'm different, but like I never could in a million years have told you that this was what my life was going to be like right now. There's no way. It's changed so drastically just in 6 years. So for you to ask me 20 years ago, where do you see yourself? Which I always hated that question, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. What am I going to be doing next year? Will I still be doing this vintage business? I don't know. Things change in my life so quickly. And I don't love that. On one hand, well, I'm torn. I am very much a homebody. I do very much like my routines and my habits and, my little cozy spaces. But on the other hand, I struggle because I don't want to be home. I want to go out and do all these new different things. So it's a war with my own self on a regular basis. Who knows? That's probably the reason why I've had so many different types of jobs, from a security guard at a slaughterhouse, to a greenhouse nursery manager, and then into computers and a new media manager for a newspaper, then into, website development and social media strategy, and then facilities. And now vintage, like there's no way I could have predicted that this is what I would be doing, because first, life, it happens. You never know. You got to pivot. You got to do these things. But my grandparents owned businesses, and my mom and dad owned a business for a time. And I had a lot of family members that had businesses, and they never seemed happy. They always complained about not being able to go anywhere, not being able to do anything. Now, my mom and dad's business didn't involve animals. My grandparents did, and so did my aunts, my aunt and uncle. So that made it very difficult. They just couldn't pick up and leave and whatever. They had to make arrangements for people to come feed the animals and take care of all that. And these animals needed to be fed like twice a day. It's not just a one-time day. It's not a cat. We're talking deer, horses, dogs, peacocks, like all kind of stuff, chickens, like all kind of things. So, but they never seemed happy. And I spent the majority of my life saying, I will never own a business. And this is one of the many, many lessons I have learned. Well, I haven't learned it actually, because I still say it. And then I turn around and it's like, well, I guess you shouldn't say never. But you should never say never, because you just don't know what's down the road or around the corner. Yeah. But here we are. This is what we're doing right now. I'm still teaching group fitness, which to me, that's kind of crazy, because it's probably the one thing that I have done the longest in my entire life. I believe I've been teaching, I think it's like 19 years, something like that. A long time. And I got into it right after I got done with scuba diving. I went up to rescue diver level, and I was not wanting to get into the commercial side of it because there's just too much liability and people are idiots, and I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to be the one that's on the hook because you're a dumbass. So I did that. It was really cool. And then I'm like, all right, what's the next thing? And it was group fitness. I took classes, and I was terrified, to get up there and do that in front of people. I'm not the most coordinated individual in the world, let me just say. And it's basically public speaking. So if you don't like that, you're in trouble. And I was terrified, but I always believed to do things that I was scared to do. That's how you grow as a person. So that's how I got into the group fitness thing. And I always wondered, like, growing up, what's my calling in life? All these people, oh, I've always wanted to be a doctor. I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to do that. And I never really felt that type of feeling like this is my calling, right? So that's kind of what it was. I got into this and started doing it, and I love it. I loved it. I loved the people. And even on my worst day, horrible things happening around me, you know, I went through a lot of things. And I would step into that room and everyone there, and it would just, everything would fall away. And I didn't have to think about my problems. I know, that's escapism, but whatever. Because honestly, people would come up to me and tell me the things that they were dealing with. And I'm like, in my own head going, oh, okay, well, Renee, you just take your pissy little problems to sit down and shut up, because it could be so much worse. And that taught me that. And it was my way of giving, you know, helping. Because people, so many people would tell me that what I did was the one thing that they truly had for themselves that they look forward to. And that I saved them. And things like that. And I cannot tell you what that meant to me. It still makes me tear up to be something so important in a stranger's life, you know. I don't know. So the group fitness thing, that's the calling. But I am getting older, and it is taking a toll on me physically. I can't do what I used to do, which is super frustrating, but you know, I still love it, but I love the vintage business. I think I like the vintage more because I actually like, I don't know, I like learning. People that don't want to learn and stay static, that's a waste of time. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Watching sports on the TV every single week, doing the same thing every single week, not changing. Like that to me is hell on earth. That might be someone's idea of heaven, but for me, I've got to be learning. I got to be doing, and the vintage fulfills that. You know, I've sold some things, and people have reached out to me and said, you have no idea how much this means to me. My father started this company, or my grandfather started this company, and I've been trying to find this kind of thing. So those are rare. True. Those are very rare, but I still love it. And if in this economy, if people take the time to spend their money on things that I have found and I send to them and they love it, and it makes them, you know, it brings them a little bit of joy, that's pretty cool. I love that. So I'm still teaching. I'm still selling vintage. We'll see how long the vintage lasts. Hopefully, this is what I'll do, right? Until I don't do anything anymore. So here we are. We're 54. This is 54. Peace.